like 90 people online at this time and maybe more joining us. My camera is over here and I have a monitor over there. So I'm mostly speaking just to my little camera, but every now and then I want to see what you're doing. So the format tonight is based on the old weekly Dharma gathering that we had in New York, where we'll have a period of sitting meditation that I will lead. We have people from all over joining us in different time zones and different settings. And some just received meditation instruction for the first time, and other people are very senior practitioners. So I will, for the benefit of just to bring everybody together, I'll give some basic instruction as we do this period of sitting. Not too much, but some guidance. And then we'll have, at the end of that, I'll give a talk and we'll have some discussion. So I'd like to just say a few words if you're not completely familiar with the magical Zoom. Right now, I believe I'm not spotlighted. So, I'm going to cancel. There's different things you can do. In the upper right, you can have speaker view, which will be on me, or you can click that and put it on gallery view. And gallery view shows everybody. And what I kind of suggest is that for the period of meditation, that people, unless you're naked or in some embarrassing situation, that you turn your camera on and you put it on gallery view, and we have the sense of all sitting together as one big Sangha community, wherever we are. And then during the talk, we'll put it on spotlight view, and you could just have it on speaker view, which would be me. And then when we have discussion, you can go back and forth, do whatever you prefer. So that's the magical Zoom. Another thing I wanted to say is we made this a free program, a free talk, which was my desire and request. And so, but at the same time, often, there's a generosity factor. And so if you would like to offer $5 or $10, just simply go to the website after this and make a donation, and we will be extremely appreciative of that. I'll make one more announcement, or one or two more announcements right at the end of the meditation and when we're about to begin the talk. So at this point, take your seat. If you're sitting in a chair, try to have a good upright posture and not leaning back, just sitting upright, sits bones, spine upright, but at ease, not too stiff. Feet, 2 feet on the ground, not legs crossed, just feet on the ground. Hands resting. This really lets your circulation and your breathing be open and unobstructed. So eyes resting, mouth slightly open, jaw relaxed, chin gently drawn in, just releasing tension in your neck without dropping your head. Just take a moment and feel the kind of a internal weather report of your physical and psychological state. We all have so much going on, even in this time where many of us have almost nothing going on. We have there's so much pressure and uncertainty. So we could be aware of that without heightening it or denying it. Just feel what it feels like to be you at this moment. Take a moment now and just think about why you're here practicing and coming to this talk today, this evening. What brought you here? What is your motivation? What's your aspiration? What direction are you going? And then as we actually begin the meditation, make a gentle allegiance to relating with the technique so that we don't just automatically space out, but that we're making some gentle effort. And with that, place your mind's awareness gently on your breath. People have different instructions depending on how advanced you are in your practice and studies, but so you can do whatever you want, but for the purposes of this instruction, just let your mind rest gently on the full cycle of your breath as it moves through your body and space. You have tightness or discomfort in your body, just try to notice it and shift your awareness back to your breathing, back to the quality of just being aware of your sense of seatedness and your breath. But if it becomes too difficult, just, if you have a knot or a crick, or just deal with it and then come back. Noticing the movement of your mind, not being too concerned about where it goes, but just seeing it very simply and turning back to present awareness of being here, seated, and this breath. In this practice, everything that arises in our mental reference is considered just different qualities of thoughts and thinking. So we just see them, even the thought, am I doing it right? The thought, I'm having difficulty doing this. The thought, I'm in the groove. All of these are, you just notice them and then actually let them just release. Noticing, not, no blame, just seeing very simply where you are and remembering where you actually are, coming back into that present awareness. There's no judgment about the content of your thoughts. There's no judgment about the speed or spaced outness of your mind. All of this is called working basis. It's where we are now. Checking on your posture, sits bones, feet grounded if you're sitting in a chair, upright spine, jaw relaxed, eyes resting downward. You can be aware of the breath just as it moves through your body, or just as your abdomen expands and releases. You can also, just without getting too trippy about it, you can also just have the sense of the way the breath connects us to our world, just in this simple exchange. We're not just here isolated, we're actually seated here. Just noticing where you are. Again, just seeing and then gently shifting back to present awareness. Seated here, which is the sense of earth, of connection to the earth. And breath, which is the connection to space. And then in these last few minutes, one of the things that meditation does, not necessarily in the short term, but in the long term, is it quiets our mind so that we can become more aware of our heart. In our world, these two things are very out of balance, and we're so aware of thoughts, concepts, and so on, and we forget about humanity, which is resting right here. And right now, there's so much, we're right in North America, we're right on the onset of this wave that seems to be coming. And there's a lot of fear. I went shopping this morning and just could feel how different it was even from a few days ago. And so just letting our hearts open, just as we sit here, just let our hearts open to the degree we can, hold the uncertainty and sadness, sense of loss. So many people have lost already jobs and clarity about their future. All of us who have a roof over our head and an internet connection, you know, at the very worst, we're in the bottom rung of the 3%. Or, you know, if you think about the world. So just letting this moment of all of us practicing together be a time when we just take some time to acknowledge all of that. You want to take a moment and you can stand up and stretch for a moment. We could just have a little, if anyone wants to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It'll only be a minute. Take a moment and just release whatever just happened in our body. So, looks like we have quite a crowd here. Okay, so we have 100 seats, 100 slots on this Zoom thing. And we have 100 people, which means there are other people who didn't get in, no doubt.
Acharya, we were at 101 briefly.
Okay. So, we're in Shambhala. This is my home shrine. Anyone who missed the beginning introduction, I'm Spiegel. My teaching title is Acharya. I'm in rural New York State in the Hudson Valley. You're in my shrine room and I'm in yours, which is part of the magic of this moment in time. And in Shambhala, we have a way of opening, which is the bow, and the bow is its own brief meditation practice. So we'll do this together now. The bow is, the first step is called holding, that we just as we were doing, we come into our body, wherever our mind just was a moment ago, now we just bring it in, we become present physically and mentally. The second part of the bow is called feeling, that we bring our awareness to our heart center and we feel our own personal humanity and dignity. And the last part is the actual bow, which is called offering. So just hands on your thighs and we just lower our heads, and that's the sense of exchanging with each other. So here in the magical Zoom, what I suggest is you put it on the upper right. There's a little button that you can click on that will put it on speaker view, and then you'll have me. You can go to gallery view and you can look at other people if you want and spy into their living rooms. But let's, for the purpose of the talk, it'd probably be good if it were just you and I, and then we'll come back to everybody during the questions and discussion. So one announcement is that we have New York Shambhala has been very latent, in a latent period of latency, is that the word? For over a year, and we have a meditation in everyday life class beginning next week. I'm not, Dan, is it Tuesday or Thursday? I think you said the 7th, which is
It's next Tuesday, Tuesday the 7th.
5 weeks on Tuesday night, beginning next week, taught by Rachel Farrow, and possibly with guest speaker named me. And so let people know about it. It'll be on Zoom. We'll be able to practice and study together. And this is really the sort of the first ongoing course I think that we've done in over a year. Secondly, as I mentioned at the beginning, we scheduled this a few days ago. Obviously, a lot of people caught the buzz. If you can and would like to make a donation of $5 or $10 to the Shambhala Center to support our work and our future, please just go to our website and click on donate, and we appreciate anything that you offer. And then to the talk. So I thought I would like to do something, and I had to come up with a title, and I thought, oh, well, people are at home, and we should probably talk about how to enrich that in a spiritual way, how to actually use the teachings to enrich it. And so that's the topic tonight. And then as we got closer, and the world day by day is getting more and more intensified around the virus, and particularly right now in the Northeast and certain others, New York and certain other cities, New Orleans and now Chicago as well. I thought, oh, there are so many important topics, and you're just going to talk about how people live in their apartments or houses. But I'm going to stick with this. And we'll have other opportunities to have conversations about all of these bigger topics. And in fact, we can bring them into this conversation. So way I title this is something like bringing Drala into our homes, inviting Drala into our homes. And Drala is a Tibetan word that literally means above aggression. And it's used to refer to sort of the energetic quality of our world, and particularly the wakeful energetic quality of our world. So I would like to give a little context for this.
Excuse me, Eric.
Yeah.
Eric, your sound is really, really distorted.
Okay.
I'm beginning to wonder whether it's been going on for a while.
Okay, let me fix it. Did that fix it?
Excellent.
Okay. That happens when I'm not talking for a while and then start talking, and I haven't figured out why. So I will now be talking. Just let me know if that happens again. But it shouldn't happen while I'm talking. So the context of Buddhism so we think of Buddhism as a spiritual path, right? So what does that have to do with how do we live in our lives in our home? And in some way that's true, but in its native universe, which is Asia, going back 25 or 2,600 years, Buddhism was part of the fabric of society, and people lived, they didn't live removed from the earth. They lived literally on the earth. They didn't have high rises. They didn't have heating and air conditioning. They didn't have running water. When it was a dry season, it was a dry season. And when it was a flood season, it was a flood season. And so this relationship to the elements, and also people lived completely connected to their villages and to their parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, and to the cycles of birth and death, as well as the cycles of the seasons and the cycles of harvest. And when Trungpa Rinpoche came to North America, he began teaching Buddhism, which is really just one part of what people need to survive, like how do we take care of our mind and our spiritual well-being. But he discovered that in the West, in Europe and in North America, people are so disconnected from kind of the elemental quality of their world. And so he began teaching what are called the Shambhala Teachings. And the Shambhala Teachings include all of the Buddhist canon, but they also include large elements of the native traditions of Asia, particularly of the Bun tradition of Tibet and the Shinto tradition of Japan. So in Japan, they have the same idea, and it's called kami. And in the Bun Tibetan tradition, it's called Drala. And so in Shambhala, we practice both our specific, we practice our meditation and we study all of the teachings to the degree you're interested in doing that. And then we also work with how do we actually invoke a quality of magic into our life. And one of the things about this is that we already live in this life, so it's already here. Whatever I'm about to tell you is not going to be anything new. I'm not going to give you, there's no hocus pocus. The hocus pocus comes from actually realizing that it's true. The way this is described is called faith, that we actually realize, oh, this is true, and we know it. And so we have a certain degree of faith that we can do that we can shift the energetic quality of our life. So I'd like to talk about this. It's not, I don't want to make it a very long talk because I want to have some discussion and because there's so much to discuss. But we could basically look at this in a framework of sort of, just as we do with meditation practice, body, speech, which in meditation is our breath and breathing, and mind. So the mind part is actually the meditation practice. So the mind part of invoking, of creating a more awakened or more uplifted state of being is that you practice meditation. For people who are new, so a whole bunch of people just received meditation instruction for the first time, right before this talk. So, you know, you're not going to just sit all the time, but you could start to create a situation where you sit, say, 10 minutes at a time, maybe 4 or 5, 6 days a week. 10 minutes is really easy. Sometimes if you say, I'm going to sit 10 minutes, it seems like it's an incredibly long time. And sometimes you say, I'm going to sit 10 minutes, and it goes by in what seems like a flash. So the idea is when you create a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is actually ritual, creating ritual in our life. We're seeing how we already have rituals, and we just need to acknowledge that. But so ritual in this case is just saying, okay, well, now I'm home and I have a lot of extra time, or I don't have to commute and so on. So I can find somewhere in my morning 10 minutes. 10 minutes is too long, do 8 minutes, but then at some point that'll be too easy, and so you can extend it to a few more minutes. Whatever it is, if you say I'm going to sit 10 minutes or 12 or 15 minutes, that's the period of time that you do. So this is called just creating a mental space to connect with yourself and to practice meditation. The physical element is how do we take care of ourself? So this is actually always important. You notice I actually wore a tie. I got dressed up for you tonight. So, but that's how I create the physical environment for myself to present the teachings, right? I actually like, to me, these are the most important things in my life. So I exalt them. But on a more mundane level, there's really a tendency, especially in this time when so many of us have just lost our schedule and the sense of framework that we have, that we create the ritual of waking up at a more or less set time, so setting an alarm, getting out of bed, showering and shaving or whatever putting on your face you do, different for each of us, and then putting on clean clothes. And you say, well, why? No one's going to see me. I'm in isolation. You are going to see yourself, and you are going to feel what it's like to be in this kind of sloppy, not quite sharp. And that lack of sharpness pours into our whole state of being. So just the thought that you put on a shirt, I have most of the time when I'm at home, I have a uniform, which is actually kind of it's a simple t-shirt, but it's like a colored t-shirt, and it has it fits well, and you know, but then I know nowadays, and I really just invoked this in the last week, anytime I'm going to be on camera, anytime I'm going out of the house, I put on something a little more, a polo shirt or a long sleeve shirt, so that I feel like I'm actually ready to engage the day. So this is actually, you could say, okay, well, that just is like, you know, life 101. And here you are saying, no, these are Drala teachings. So that's the shift of having some trust. I use the word faith, having some trust or faith that there is actually a magical element that we can invoke in our life. Along with that is eating real meals, cooking real food, eating well, not opening a can or a box of something and eating out of it, standing up in your kitchen, but heating it up, putting it in a bowl or on a plate, whatever it needs, sitting down at the table, maybe with a book, maybe with the radio on, and having a meal and tasting your food. So this is actually like, still we're in the realm of meditation practice, that we're connecting with the present awareness of what we're doing. We're engaging in our life. The third part is what we call speech, but speech in the Shambhala Teachings, speech is both speech itself, but a lot of times we're by ourselves. We're not really talking very much to anyone. So then, but speech is also related to the whole quality of the environment. So here, in this case, I'm not sitting at my sofa. I wanted to give a Dharma talk, and I wanted you to be able to hear that clearly. So I set up a movie set in my meditation room, and I lit the candles. I made it so that this is what I'm doing. I wanted to create the right environment. Most of us aren't doing that. You probably don't even have a shrine, or maybe whatever religion you are, maybe you have something. But the point of environment, which is the speech element, is that we take care of our environment. Again, you could say, well, no one's coming into my house for the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks. You're dwelling in it. It should be nice, because you will, your whole mental attitude will respond to the quality of your environment. So get up, shower, make your bed. Years ago, I was teaching these teachings, and someone who had 2 preteen children said, do you mean that I can just tell my children that they should make their bed because it's invoking Drala? And I said, yes, you should tell them that. It would help. It would actually give people a view. This is what's called a view. Most of the time, we don't have a view in our life, meaning we don't know where we're going. We're just we think, oh, I have 6 or 8 weeks of being in this kind of weird funk space. That's not a view, or it's a view of funk. That's our what we're looking out at is funk. So in this case, what we're looking out at is enrichment. We're looking out at how we can perk up our senses, our awareness, and the quality and state of our mind without Wellbutrin. That was a joke. So, hopefully everyone knew that. So, put on proper clothing, clean your house or apartment, make your bed, have real meals, at least 1 or 2 real meals a day. I try to have 3 sit-down meals a day. I've basically been in semi-isolation since early March. I live fairly remote, and I kind of just became into this a little ahead of the curve, but not too much. So then there are other things, there are more elaborate things you can do. When we do this, so if you say, oh, I'm making my bed, okay, say you're making your bed, and then you think, who's noticing? So there's this concept in the Buddhist and Shambhala teachings, so meaning both in the spiritual tradition and in the native quality, the native traditions of Asia and many other cultures, of extending out, of recognizing that we're in a world that's very interconnected and that we can extend out into it. And in our tradition, in the Shambhala tradition, we call this extension making offering. So the gesture, the word in Tibetan, I think, is mudra. The word for gesture is mudra, which is just means a gesture. And the mudra for offering is just opening your palm, placing your hand in front of you with your fist closed, doesn't have to be clenched, just closed, and then extending it open. And as you do that, there's also a sense of that you open, something of you opens. So the sort of first step of this whole thing is just taking care of these very basic details of keeping your house clean and neat and making your bed and putting on your clothes and eating your meals. So those are sort of like, that's like the elementary school step. But then the further step is this thing called making offering. Who are you making offering to? Space itself. It's not like, oh, this is logical. No, this is magical. It's beyond logic. It's just simply starting to connect with the world that we tend to not see, or when we do see it, we don't realize how important it is because it doesn't say something directly to us. I'll come back to that in a minute. So what is making offering in this case? Making offering could be buying flowers when you're at the store and arranging them in a vase and putting them somewhere on your coffee table, on your dresser, where you'll see them. It's just an offering to the environment, to the space, to the universe. Making offering could be noticing that all of us live in whatever we live, and we live with other people or by ourselves, and our environment is what it is, and it's probably been that way for quite some time. So, okay, notice that some of our environment is very dated. And we place these things here and there, we put these books out, or at a particular time, and that whole who we were then is not who we are now. And so we could take that space and refreshen it. Look at our objects. Just take our coffee table or a dresser or our kitchen counter and just look at what's on it and decide, God, I haven't looked at that or used it or touched it in 5 years. Oh, there are other things that would be more relevant for me to have there. And so then bring them out and put them there and acknowledge them and have them in your life. So this is all the environmental quality, but this is the second level. This is the sense of making offering. Just, you know, traditionally we think so literally. We think, you know, I'm going to give this to you, and you're going to say thank you, or you're going to give me something back. Or maybe it's not really a gift. I'm really giving this to you because I expect something back. So we have this very kind of rooted transactional relationship to sharing. And here the instruction is simply to share. To share with just the quality of our own world. So I want to, these are just very, very simple teachings, but they're magical teachings. I hope people will wake up and recognize this. And I want to now, just in closing, tie this back to the universe we're living in today. Over these next weeks, if what the government, the news is saying is about to happen, our world is going to be rocked. And we're, you know, we in the US and probably all of North America, we are so centered on ourselves, so egocentric on the US and what we're experiencing. What about Syria or India or Turkey or refugee camps? I mean, or Kenya, what people are going to be experiencing is horrific. Some of it literally couldn't be helped, and a lot of it could have been. And we're going to feel the repercussion of this. So these instructions on invoking Drala into our home are really about protecting our mind so that we can stay open and we can stay compassionate and we don't just become completely benumbed by everything, but that we maintain our humanity as well as our dignity. So these are things I wanted to share with you, and I hope that they're helpful for all of us who are living in what feels like it will be an extended period of living in a way that we've never lived before. And both cut off from and still yet very connected to our communities. So I would like to open this for any kind of questions. And the way you ask a question, Dan, do you want to come on and just say what they do, how they raise their hand?
If you go to your put your cursor in the lower part of your screen, you'll see a participant's view. And then in that view, you'll see a button there that says more, and you can see a raise hand button there. And we'll be able to see that you've raised your hand, and we'll be able to unmute you.
And I will take any questions that you have. And by the way, we're recording this, so if you tell us your deepest secrets, we'll share them. No, so we're recording it, so just, be discreet. But do communicate, please. I'm here. You have my full attention. Jennifer, I'm going to unmute you and you can speak.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
Hi, where are you?
I'm calling in also from the Hudson Valley. I'm in Shokan, just west of Woodstock.
Lovely. Wonderful.
Well, I first wanted to offer just a tremendous amount of gratitude for hosting this. I had been a regular participant of the Dharma gatherings for years, and then my work situation prevented me from going. So this is my first time attending in a really long time, and I'm so grateful for it. I wanted to also thank you for the topic. I'm sort of interior designer, lifestyle consultant, and exactly what you're speaking to is what I've been offering to my clients and to my whole community for free for when this started, because I understand the gravity of what it is to be in our homes, which have now become our entire lives, and how sort of without having the skill set to create sort of sacred space for yourself, and also just the sanity making that comes from homemaking itself. So the topic resonates with me very, very deeply and personally, and I appreciate it. My question is really about how to sort of manage this feeling of impending grief. I feel like with this awareness of what the world is going through and how it is just slowly, steadily coming onto our doorsteps, this feeling of mourning and loss that isn't quite specific. It's not about a person. It's just sort of the loss of, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like this sort of global mourning that I just feel coming, and it feels unmanageable at times. It feels completely overwhelming, and sort of, obviously hard to process. And then the reality is that feeling of impending will be a feeling of an actual grief and an actual mourning, because it will show up. So I would just appreciate to know what the teachings would offer to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully my sound is still okay here. Good. Yeah, well, of course, I know exactly what to do. That was also a joke. So our teachings, the teachings in the Shambhala tradition are to be a warrior, and warriorship means, so people here on this call, on this Zoom, are probably at all different levels, from very, very, very beginner to very advanced, and maybe people have other depth in other traditions. So Shambhala is obviously not by any means the only tradition that gives depth and warriorship.
Your sound is going, Acharya.
Okay, hold on a minute. let's see if this works again. Did
Yep,
that
you're
work?
good.
Did that work?
You're good.
Okay. So then the meaning of warriorship is that we have strength, which is that, but also that we have tenderness. So it's that we're open to our own feelings, our own sadness and loss and joy, and also all of what is around us, what other people are experiencing, that we can actually feel those things. But then also that we have strength. And the strength comes from the fact that we can actually bring our mind into present awareness through posture, through breath. I cannot emphasize enough how much posture is a part of meditation. That meditating like this, it's almost impossible to, I don't know if you can see, but I'm slumping. Or meditating like this is just not actually meditating. There's something intrinsic about meditation that, to the degree that we're able, because obviously, like I have scoliosis, and other people, you could have anything, or you might not be able to sit up. You might have an injured vertebrae. But to the degree that you're able to, that you have the most upright, open posture. And then if you need to modify it, then you modify it. You do whatever you need to do. I have students who literally bring these sort of like recliner chairs to programs, and they're basically like on a lounge chair, but that's what they need for their vertebrae to be able to remain workable. But so that's that sense of physical presence gives, I don't know if it exactly gives us the quality of strength of warriorship, but it reinforces it. And then that also allows our heart to be open, which is the tenderness. And so, and within that, we need to be able to cry. We need to be able to pull away when we need to pull away. We need to know that the news is like the continual news feed of CNN or Fox or NPR. I'm distancing myself from NPR, not completely, but I'm not. It's not my constant companion right now. Just to sort of finish that, the reason why knowing that we have to have some distance is because those things are electronic and we're human. So we have a different temperament. It's really simple. We think we can handle anything, but we're not electronic. I hope that's helpful to you. Hands raised, you can click on under participants and raise your hand. Or you can just, if your camera's on, you can raise your hand, and if I see it, I'll call on you. Yes, this person called iPhone. I've unmuted you. Can you come closer to your camera? Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, this is Loretta from Arizona,
Yes.
Tempe, Arizona. Thank you so much. I was so excited to hear that you were doing this program because it's really congruous with the way I've been approaching this time. And I found that I was really drawn to that blue book that is given, I think, at ESA, Enlightened Society Assembly, on the householder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've chosen that as sort of my go-to text during the last couple of weeks. And I was actually called to do that. And the question I have is, I am noticing increasingly during this time where we're all at home, I'm much more aware of the morning being morning, the sense of noontime, dusk and evening, but really a lot, morning being morning and evening being evening. And I was just wondering if you could say something about that sense of the day and our cycle of 24 hours and how that applies to these teachings.
Well, it's an interesting thing because a lot of us aren't getting outside very much right now. Maybe in Tempe you are, and up here I am. But a lot of people in the cities are not getting out very much. So I was shopping this morning at my local supermarket, and the line at 8 in the morning was an hour. It took an hour to get through the register. And the person in front of me had just gotten off her shift as a toll keeper.
Mm-hmm.
And and we walked back to our cars together, distanced, but together. And she got into her car and I wished her a good night, good day or good night. And she said, I'm way past my bedtime. It was like 8:45. So I think it goes back to that sense of having meals, of just that you have some discipline that ordinarily there's an externally enforced schedule that we have to be at work or we have appointments at a certain time. And that is all dissolving right now for many of us, maybe obviously not all of us. And some of us haven't had that, and have figured out other ways around it. But the sense here is that we have to create this quality of ritual and understand that ritual, in this case, which is as simple as setting an alarm clock or having meals at more or less, at breakfast time, at lunchtime, and at dinner time, and at going to bed at bedtime and not staying up till 3, and then the cycle goes completely off. So that this sense of protecting our own mind and well-being is supported by ritual. Ritual is connected to these teachings on Drala, that we actually make certain gestures. We have this thing called mudra, that we make gestures. Inner gestures, simple gestures like getting up and making our bed and taking a shower, and more elaborate gestures like arranging objects, which we could rearrange tomorrow. They don't have to be, there's no rule about it. We could rearrange the objects today and we could rearrange them tomorrow, and we could rearrange them and then look and say, oh, I don't like that arrangement, and then just wipe it clean and then start again another time. So I think, Loretta, You know, I think that's what you're asking, is just the importance of more of cycles. And you know, as I said at the beginning, you know, historically people were connected to the cycles of the seasons. If you live near the sea, you're connected to the cycles of the tides,
Mhm.
which is the moon cycle, and and the cycle of the rotation of the sun and the moon with each other. And so there, and the cycle of birth and growing up and developing maturity and becoming more frail later, and then dying right there with everyone in place, and then being buried or burned and sent off with various prayers. So all of these, we in the modern age, we're so disconnected. We're so disconnected.
Mhm.
So just the Shambhala teachings are about how do we reconnect? How do we touch the earth again?
Mhm.
Someone else? You can raise your blue hand, or else if I see you raise your palm, I'll.
Mhm.
Yes, Lori. Hi, Lori. How are you? I'll unmute you there. You can speak now.
Mostly I wanted to just say thank you so much, because it's so great to see you, and it just did my heart such good. You know, it is such a stressful time. I've moved my 80-year-old uncle from the city up to Connecticut with my husband and me, you know, which is a very new, and, you know, it's just been a week now. And, you know, it's intense. You know, he's easy. He's, you know, my favorite relative, but it's, you know, it's really, I'm doing more meal prep than I've ever done in my life. You know, it's thinking about like what to defrost the next day. You know, I get myself so worked up, you know, because it used to be so easy. You know, it's like, oh, if there's nothing there, we'll just go hop downtown and get something. So I don't know what my question is, except when I heard you speak, I just felt, you know, the tenderness, and for, you know, just for ourselves as well. You know.
Yeah. It's really sweet. There are many people on this call who I have known for a long time, who have taken vows with me, and people who've studied with me, and there's a lot of people I don't know as well, and it's just really very, very sweet, and I'm really appreciative, and nice for me to see you all. So, Noelle, you briefly raised your hand. Did you want to?
Okay.
Okay. Yes? Okay. You are unmuted.
Thanks.
Come closer so I can see who you. Yes.
Thank you,
Hi.
Acharya Spiegel. It was wonderful to see you and see everyone. I've been out of touch with the community for a while, and when I got this email, it just called to me, and I wanted to show up and sit with you all and hear about this topic. As a couple of other people have said, this topic is very dear to me, and I guess I'm just wanting to say thanks and echo just how nourishing it is to be in this peculiar position where suddenly the basics like cooking the meals are just so poignant, almost like just so empowering, and so it does feel very, very important when everything else is so shrunk down, to experience these small movements within my 1-bedroom apartment, and they feel so full. So don't really have a question. I just want to say, I think that there's such a powerful transformation going on that I can feel personally around the preciousness of being alive in my tiny world, and I feel surprisingly grateful for. I mean, I feel a little like I don't want to say that, but it feels very just vital to be forced into this situation of going slow and needing, like, the stakes are so high that needing to make meals 3 times a day and really keep up with the dishes and really keep this place, picked up, and, not having any escape from that is such a lesson, and such a wonderful lesson for me. I mean, I'm good at it anyway, but I'm like really on it now. And it feels like something I want to continue.
So that takes effort. We'll get to that in a few weeks or a couple of months, the continuing, but
Yeah.
it's very important now that each of us are going to create the environment we create and then get sloppy about it. And then it's just like in meditation practice, you just start fresh. You notice, oh, I've stopped doing these things and now my mind has fallen down a rabbit hole. And then you can just say, okay, well then I need to tighten up a little bit and get up again tomorrow and do my meditation practice and make my bed and make my meals and so on. So thank you, Noel.
Acharya, could you recognize Brenda Kelleher, who has a question?
So there's a couple of people, Bobby first and then Brenda, and then after that I'm going to make my closing remarks, okay? So Bobby, you're unmuted. And we can't hear you still. So you're maybe, can you speak through the tape?
Is this any better?
You're good, now you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Acharya Spiegel. Thank you for the talk, and I think it's very timely and very much appreciated. One of the things that I remember thinking, kind of going into all of this, like when it was clear that things were going to start slowing down, but the scope of it maybe wasn't clear. I remember feeling like we're heading into springtime, but it really feels more like we're about to head into winter, and kind of like a period of like hibernation, slowing down, of death and decay, and I think my mind, and I think the way that we're kind of trained in the society to think is like planning ahead for that, and so I was very much getting ready to just kind of numb out for this period, and wait for spring to come whenever this all starts to go away. But I don't know if this is what kind of your understanding of the lesson tonight, but it feels a little bit like every day we are planting seeds, even if it does feel like winter. And if this does go on for a long time, what we're doing right now is really going to impact kind of how we feel and where we are further down the road. And so it feels strange, but it does feel a little bit more significant now, even though so much of this can be so boring, for lack of a better word, and so easy to tune out. I don't know if this makes sense, but I do appreciate feeling this more sense of that even in these moments of very little going on, so much is still matters.
I think my closing remarks will address that somewhat. So I'll just save it for that, okay?
Thank you.
So there's a few people raising their hands now. I think there was Brenda and I saw Donna, I believe, but now I don't see anyone. I have the wrong screen on. So Donna, I'll unmute you. I've unmuted you. You can speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Acharya, Eric. I was thinking about you the night before I saw this advertised, and I thought I really need Eric. I really need to hear what he has to say. And then the next day, I saw this. Last week, I was watching Netflix, staying up late and eating junk. And then I remembered you saying, when you're sitting, don't be looking at the dirty laundry. And I started intuitively washing the dishes, making the bed, not watching Netflix, not watching the news all the time. And I've been on a lot of these Zoom meetings, and I must say this was the best one ever. It was disciplined. Everybody's mic wasn't on, and it was, I really had a great deal of peace being with everyone and being with you. And I'm so grateful, and I hope we can do this frequently. I hope we can. So thank you very much.
So Rachel, I want to finish soon. So Rachel, and then I saw Richard Sylvester, I think, had his hand up, and then we'll close. So Rachel, you can speak.
Hi. Well, I'll be brief, but Acharya, first of all, I want to thank you so much. I think that so many of the things you said were very, very helpful now. This is such a surrealistic time. You know, when you really think about it, you wake up in the morning and it's just unbelievable. And the empty streets, the fact that you can't just go out, be with your friends, all these components are just completely strange and surrealistic for all of us, I think. It's as if we woke up and we're in a science fiction apocalyptic movie of some sort. So I especially appreciated what you mentioned about making your day as a ritual. And in that way, you can actually invoke Drala and energy by simply making a schedule, you know, even if you're alone. And that's what we've been doing here, is keeping the house clean, having practice in the morning and in the evening, getting dressed properly every day. And I just wanted to say it was very gratifying to hear you speak about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and if any of you are interested in taking your meditation practice a little deeper, we're starting this class in 1 week, meditation in everyday life. And I will guarantee you that you will have a good, strong practice if you take this class and take it to heart. Signing off.
Richard, did you want to say something? I've unmuted you, but I still can't hear you.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just brushing my hair back. I wasn't raising my hand, but I'm glad to have this opportunity, mainly to thank you and thank everyone for joining in.
Me too, thank you.
And I guess maybe it's a little premature, but lately it's been dawning on me that as horrific as all this is, and I think you mentioned earlier, it may be a little premature, but the opportunity, just sort of kind of a weird gratitude for the opportunity to be reminded of these teachings and to wake up, basically.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
Don't forget Brenda, Acharya.
I don't see Brenda. You unmute her, and I don't see Brenda. I don't see where she is. So you can unmute her.
Here we go. Well, I was trying. Brenda, if you're there and you're here, unmute yourself. There you go.
Acharya Spiegel.
Are you on camera or you're not on?
I'm not on camera.
No wonder. Okay.
So it's just my voice. Hello. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Acharya Spiegel. I actually have a very specific question. I wonder if you could make a brief comment about during this practice now of living in our homes and inviting Drala and creating sacred world in our everyday lives, how we might share that with others.
Do the best you can. Honestly, you know, you can't, people don't, part of the whole point of Shambhala Teachings is that it gives us a view. It gives us a way to look at our life and our relationship to our physical and mental self and the world around us. And generally speaking, people don't have that in the modern world, not just America, you know, not just the English speaking world, but they don't have it in China. They don't have it in India, and you know, but there are places where there are families, there are people who practice spiritual traditions, or just who live in a very natural, elemental way. There are plenty of people who do have, quote unquote, a view and would understand this, but a lot of people, it's just really hard to lay one thing on them. And if they haven't had any desire for introspection in their life, then you can't really do much about that, you know. So other people might have better answers than that. That wasn't a very good answer. It was really a crappy answer, but that's been my experience, is that, you know, sometimes if there are people you're close with, you can do something by example. I really felt like I made big adjustments in my father's life simply by making offering to him, by bringing him better wine glasses, you know, so he could enjoy his wine, you know, or just by creating environments. And I've done that, you know, just by creating environments. But in this time of isolation, all you can really do is make suggestions. But that magical quality is, you can't really transmit that through just a basic suggestion. But some people will get it and other people won't.
Thank you.
Sorry to be that not
Realistic?
Yeah, that realistic, yeah.
All right, you're forgiven.
Okay. So, thank you, everyone. I would like to say one very important thing here. In the Buddhist tradition, the awareness of impermanence is one of the primary foundations of the teachings. That everything that we see that seems so solid, including our own life, is actually just one breath away from dissolution. Our job is, our security, our life. And so that's why in Buddhism and in every other spiritual tradition, you know, there's a recognition of this, and therefore we're trying to develop an understanding of something that's deeper than our grasping onto this, all of this, whatever, in your own life, in my own life. But in fact, it's always right there. It's always one misstep, one heartbeat, one breath away. And yet we never see it. We never see it. And all of a sudden now, we see it. So this isn't really a time just to become overwhelmed by fear. It's a moment where you can actually become aware of true reality. That your life is very fragile. It's not the big thing you think it is. But when we have that view, we can also see that all of these lives are equally fragile, and that this whole dance, this whole play of creation and nature and construction and employment and aspirations is this incredibly elegant dance. So that fragility is actually a tool of insight. It's not meant to be a bludgeon. It's not meant to be punishment. It's that you can actually see the world now in its real colors. You can see how elegant it is. So take this opportunity. In a few months, the world will go back to its normal and we will quickly forget. But if we can implant this awareness now, it will help us in every other situation that we ever encounter. So please be mindful, be awake, maintain joy and also tenderness. And we will do this again. We'll do more things and other things. And so just tune in. This was New York Shambhala's first foray, and here we are. So let's close with a bow by, again, wherever you were, just coming in. This is called holding, coming into the present, being present in your body and present in your awareness. And then turning inward and feeling your own humanness, which is called feeling. Just feeling your heartbeat or your own uncertainty. And then let's exchange that through offering. A deep bow to all of you. Many, many thanks to the Shambhala Center of New York and to Dan Schreibman for hosting it and Jane Heyer for helping get this up and running today. And so, and Irene Woodard has her hand up. So I'm going to leave, we'll leave the room open and you can talk to each other. And I'm going to say good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good
night.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks.
Irene,
Thanks,
are you talking?
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, everyone.
We're all in it together. Hi, Irene.
Okay, I'm gonna leave, okay? Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Oh, how do I get out of there?
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.
Hi.
Thank you.
Good night. Rachel. Rachel.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Loretta.
Hello. Oh, hi.
Hi. We get to see each other.
I know. See, this is like really good.
Well, much love to you, and I hope to be able to join you in the coming Tuesday.
Oh, I hope so. I hope I see you then. Great. Well, good night to all, and see you then.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Hasta la próxima. Annette, Rotterdam, up late.
All right, it's looking like we're done here.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for being such a great Zoom meister.
Oh, shucks. You're welcome.
Touch. See you.
All righty. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Good night.